The Sutta Nipāta, the group of discourses. A new translation by Bhikkhu Candana. It is being narrated by the author. This book is dedicated to all those with little dust in their eyes. Sabbadhanang Dhammadhanang Jinati. The gift of Dhamma surpasses all other gifts. This book is not for sale. It is intended for free distribution. The Dhamma cannot be sold. It is a gift of Dhamma to you, the reader. All the translations of the suttas, discourses, contained in this book are copyrighted material of the author. You may copy, reprint, republish, and redistribute this work in any medium whatsoever, provided that you only make such copies available free of charge, and you do not alter its content. Aneka jati sangsarang sandhavisang anibbisang. Through countless rebirths in the cycles of existence, I kept running in vain. Gahakarakang gavesanto dukkha jati punappunang. As I searched and searched for the builder of this house, only to be faced with the suffering of a new birth yet again. Gahakaraka dittosi punagehang nikahasi. O house builder, I have now seen you. You shall build me a house no more ever again. Sabbate pasuka bhagga gahakutang visankhatang. All your beams and rafters are now broken into bits, and its main ridgepole fully obliterated. Visankhara gatang chittang tanhanang kayang ajaga. Finally, the heart is now liberated from its habitual drives, and the destruction of craving has now been realized. From the Dhammapada, verse 153. Forward. The Sutta Nipāta, nestled within the Khuddaka Nikāya of the Pali Buddhist canon, holds a significant place among the vast body of Buddhist literature. Composed during the earliest years of the Buddha's dispensation, known as the Sasana, this collection of discourses offers a precious window into the profound teachings and spiritual insights of the Buddha and his foremost disciples. Its profound impact and timeless relevance makes it essential reading for both beginners and experts on the Buddhist path. The Sutta Nipāta consists of 71 suttas, or discourses, which have been composed in the ancient language of Magadhi, spoken during the time of the Buddha. These suttas are considered to be some of the oldest and most authentic records of the Buddha's teachings, capturing the essence of his profound wisdom and compassionate guidance. They explore a wide range of subjects, including ethics, meditation, mindfulness, liberation, the nature of reality, and the path to awakening, i.e., Nibbana. What sets the Sutta Nipāta apart is its poetic and literary style, employing rich metaphors, vivid imagery, and powerful narratives to convey deep philosophical and spiritual truths. The suttas are often presented in the form of dialogues between the Buddha and his disciples, as well as encounters with other individuals from various backgrounds. Through these dialogues, the Buddha skillfully elucidates the path to liberation. offering practical instructions and insightful guidance to those seeking spiritual awakening. The Sutta Nipāta is revered for its emphasis on fundamental principles and direct teachings that transcend cultural and temporal boundaries. It presents the timeless truths of impermanence, suffering, and the non-substantiality of an independent self, while also emphasizing the importance of moral conduct, ethical living, and the cultivation of wholesome qualities. These teachings serve as a guidepost for individuals seeking to alleviate their own suffering and those of others, while discovering the profound truths of existence. For beginners, the Sutta Nipāta offers an accessible entry point into the richness of Buddhist philosophy and practice. Its poetic nature, engaging stories, and practical teachings make it a valuable resource for those exploring Buddhism for the first time. Seasoned practitioners and scholars, on the other hand, will find in the Sutta Nipāta a deep well of wisdom and contemplation, as they constantly discover new layers of insight and inspiration. In summary, the Sutta Nipāta holds a special place within the Pali Buddhist canon, serving as a treasury of timeless teachings and spiritual guidance. It provides a penetrating look into the early years of the Buddha's dispensation and offers a roadmap for those seeking liberation and enlightenment. Its accessibility and enduring relevance make it a valuable resource for all seekers of truth, whether they are taking their first steps on the path or traversing it with seasoned familiarity. Introduction. Unveiling the Path to Nibbana. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. In this remarkable journey through the earliest discourses of the Buddha, I invite you to embark on a unique experience, one that seeks to illuminate the profound wisdom and practical guidance contained within the Pali Suttas that are here presented to you from one of the very earliest collections of discourses of Lord Buddha, which have survived the passing of nearly 26 centuries. Unlike previous translations that have often adorned the verses of the Sutta Nipāta with poetic embellishments, my approach is centered on benefiting the actual practitioner of the path, as I attempt to capture the essence of the Buddha's teachings with a focus on context, relational human elements, and especially the significance of his instructions for meditators on the path to Nibbana. Throughout history, numerous translations of the Sutta Nipāta have graced the shelves, offering diverse interpretations of the Buddha's teachings. While each of these works has contributed to our understanding, I felt compelled to bring forth a translation that delves deeper into the nuances and subtleties present in the original texts. It is my sincere belief that a clear, contextual rendition, unencumbered by poetic license, can offer practitioners of meditation and seekers of truth a more direct and unobstructed path towards realizing the ultimate goal of Nibbana. As you delve into these pages, you will discover that, similar to other Nikayas that I have been translating over the years, here too I have chosen not to skip the repetitions found within the suttas. Some may view these repetitions as mere redundancies, but I have come to appreciate and understand their profound significance in the Buddha's teachings, given their impact on meditators' development. Each repetition serves as a gentle reminder, an echo of wisdom, reverberating through the ages, reinforcing essential principles and guiding us towards transformative insights. By embracing these repetitions, we unlock a wealth of teachings that can help us deepen our meditation practice and navigate the intricacies of our own minds with greater clarity. Moreover, my translation here places a strong emphasis on the relational human dynamics woven into these suttas. After all, the Buddha's teachings were not delivered in a vacuum. They were imparted within the tapestry of human interaction, addressing the concerns, questions, and challenges faced by his disciples and all those who came to him with questions. By carefully preserving and elucidating these interpersonal dynamics, my translation endeavors to reveal the living, breathing quality of the Buddha's teachings, bridging the gap between ancient wisdom and contemporary understanding. Central to this translation is the recognition of the instructions given by the Buddha as practical guidance, offering a roadmap for meditators to develop swiftly along their journey to Nibbana. By presenting the teachings in a contextually grounded manner, I aim to provide practitioners with the tools necessary to cultivate their practice effectively and overcome the obstacles that arise on the path. The relevance of these instructions is timeless, transcending the boundaries of culture and time, resonating with meditators across the ages as they traverse the labyrinthine depths of their own minds. In this translation, my intention is not to diminish the beauty of the Pali language or to dismiss previous renditions. Rather, I seek to offer a fresh perspective, one that prioritizes clarity, authenticity, and accessibility. It is my hope that this approach will serve as a guiding light for those who yearn to embrace the teachings of Lord Buddha, enabling them to delve deeper into the wisdom encapsulated within these suttas and guiding them towards the liberating experience of Nibbana. May this translation, rooted in context, relational human elements, and the deep relevance of the Buddha's instructions, serve as a transformative companion on your own journey towards ultimate liberation. May it awaken within you the spark of wisdom, inspire your practice, and lead you towards the profound peace that lies at the heart of the Buddha's teachings. Signed, Mettā Bhikkhu Candana, Sydney, Australia. Buddhist Era, 2566, July 2023. Book 1, Uraga Vagga. Sutta Nipāta 1.1, Uraga Sutta, the Snake. When anger arises within his heart, the bhikkhu quickly tosses it out, much like medicinal herbs that expel the venom out of the wound received from a snake bite. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. The bhikkhu pulls out lust completely from its roots, like the plucking of lotuses with both flower and stalk combined. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. The bhikkhu dries up craving in his heart without remainder, much like the drying up of a swiftly flowing shallow stream. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. The bhikkhu washes conceit away entirely from his heart. much like a mighty flood sweeps away a frail bridge made of bamboo. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. The bhikkhu, while looking at his existences, trying to find an essence somewhere in them, is like the one who goes looking for flowers on a fig tree, never able to find one. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. With no anger left in him, the bhikkhu has no desires for becoming any more, anywhere. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. The bhikkhu, having cut the flow of ceaseless thinking, has no more inner agitation left in him. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. No longer confused whether to go this way or that, the bhikkhu, with certitude now in his heart, has left all mental proliferations behind. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. Now, certain beyond any doubt about the path he is on, the bhikkhu knows full well that all things in the world are not what they seem. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. Having abandoned all recollections of the past and expectations of the future, no longer fooled by the world, the bhikkhu lives without any covetousness left in his heart. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. Being free from his past and future, and no longer fooled by the world, the bhikkhu lives without any lust left in his heart. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. Being free from his past and future, and no longer fooled by the world, the bhikkhu lives without any hatred left in his heart. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. Being free from his past and future, and no longer fooled by the world, the bhikkhu lives without any delusion left in his heart. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. With his contaminants of the heart, asavas, destroyed, the bhikkhu has cut off all the unwholesome roots, the causes for agitation. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. With nothing for him to take personally, nor become inflamed about, the bhikkhu now has no cause for re-becoming. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. With nothing for him to desire or crave any further, the bhikkhu now has no cause for re-becoming. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. Having wisely used and overcome the 5 hindrances, the bhikkhu now lives unburdened, free, untroubled, safe, and secure. Thus, the bhikkhu gives up this shore and the one beyond, much like a snake giving up its used-up skin. Sutta Nipāta 1.2 Dhaniya Sutta. Dhaniya, the cowherd. I boiled my rice, and the cows are already milked, said Dhaniya, the cowherd, to the Blessed One. I live together with my family on the bank of the river Mahi. Our hut is well thatched, and there's plenty of dung to fuel the fire. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. The Blessed One replied, freed from anger, with the arrow of meanness pulled out of my heart, it is only one night that I spend on the bank of the river Mahi. My hut is laid bare. I sit in open space, with my fire cooled and fully extinguished. Here there are no mosquitoes and no gadflies, continued Dhaniya, the cowherd. My cattle roam freely in lush green pastures by the meadow, untroubled by the pouring rain. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. Having made for me a well-built raft, replied the Blessed One, I have crossed over and gone to the other side with it, overcoming the entire flood. And now there is no longer a need for any rafts. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. Then Dhaniya the cowherd said, my wife is obedient, well-tamed, and never self-centered. We have been happily married for a very long time. She has no evil qualities, and no one talks ill of her. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. My mind is obedient, well-tamed, and completely liberated, replied the Blessed One, as he continued. It has been trained and perfected for a very long time. No evil thoughts are found within me. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. Dhaniya, the cowherd, then said, I make my living as a free man, working for myself, and my sons work for me, all in great health. They have no evil qualities, and no one talks ill of them. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. I serve no one, replied the Blessed One, as he added, I walk this whole world with what I earn. No wages are necessary for me. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. Dhaniya, the cowherd, then said, I own plump cows, and breeding cows too. I have also a strong bull, the father of the herd. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. I neither have calves nor cows, or even breeding cows, replied the Blessed One, as he added, there is no bull here to be the father of any herd. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. Then Dhaniya, the cowherd, said, the stakes keeping them in place are driven deep into the ground, making them unshakable, and the ropes, newly made from munja grass, are strong, as they are unbreakable even by the strong young male bulls. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. Like a strong bull, I have broken all the bonds, responded the Blessed One, as he continued. Like the alpha male tusker elephant that tears through weathered and decaying vines, I will never return to any womb ever again. So let the rain deva pour down his wrath as he wishes. And right at that moment, suddenly, a thunderous rain started pouring down, filling up both the valleys and the highlands alike. And in hearing the roar of lightning and the pouring of rain, Dhaniya the cowherd exclaimed, "Indeed, it is so fortunate and auspicious for us to encounter the Blessed One. O great leader of sages, we take refuge in you as our teacher. O Sugata, just like you who has crossed over and gone to the other shore, beyond birth and death, now both my wife and I will obediently lead the holy life in your dispensation. Thus, we also will put an end to suffering." Meanwhile, Mara, the great deceiver, witnessing all this, interjected by saying to Dhaniya the cowherd, "But sons bring so much joy and delight to their parents. Also, owning cattle brings great joy to their owners, who delight in having possessions, whereas all those who have none grieve and never have a reason to rejoice." And the Blessed One said, "Sons and children are for much sorrow and grief. So are the cattle you own the cause for much grief, for having possessions brings their owners nothing more than worry, fear, and much suffering too. But when you live with no more attachments, you become finally freed from the sorrow that all these things bring." Sutta Nipāta 1.3 Khaggavisāṇa Sutta, the horned rhinoceros. Having relinquished all manner of violence and any desire to cause harm to anyone, do not wish for sons, nor the close association with another, and instead continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. As a result of closely associating with another, affection arises due to love, in time bringing you sorrow and much pain. By seeing the hidden danger born out of the affection for loved ones, continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Giving attention, offering sympathy, and worrying about the welfare of loved ones and friends, you miss out by delaying your own progress in the holy life. Reflecting on the dangers of the shackles of intimacy, continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Desiring for children, wives, and the attention of other women is like the uncontrolled proliferation of bamboo trees, entangled and trapped. Much like a young bamboo shoot, still uninvolved and free, continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. As a wild deer, untied and set loose into the wide forest, roaming free into the expanse, a wise man reflecting on such a freedom lives alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. When living among companions, whether one is trying to lay down and rest, or stand, or go on a journey, there is always someone coming to disturb your peace, making requests, or asking questions. Seek the kind of freedom that is not sought after by the crowds, as you live alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. While being with friends, you engage and indulge in all kinds of amusements, games, and playful activities. where you become delighted in being part of a large family, along with the desire for having children. Even though you cannot bear separating yourself from those dear to you, nevertheless, continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros, being comfortable and at ease, with no hostilities towards anyone in the four directions, contented with whatever comes your way, fearlessly facing whatever troubles along the path. Continue on, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Donning the robes of a recluse, some monastics behave more like householders than monks, being contentious and so difficult to please. Instead, leave the worries of household life to lay people and continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. But once having removed your layman's attire, and now wearing the robes of a bhikkhu in the color of the fallen Kovilara leaves, cut off the shackles that bind householders, and just like a hero, continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. If you find yourself a dedicated friend, a virtuous and wise friend, then, without looking back, having overcome all dangers, fearlessly walk with him, with a mind that is joyful. But if you cannot find a dedicated friend to be your virtuous and wise companion, then, just like a king who has relinquished his vanquished kingdom, continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. It is indeed considered a great fortune to have a friend who is superior, or at the very least equal to oneself in both virtue and wisdom. But if you are unable to find one who has already attained to the paths and fruits, then, while living blamelessly, continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. See how shiny double bracelets behave, for even though being made of gold by a goldsmith, they keep clashing as they jingle together, even while sharing the same arm. So, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. In just the same way, when there is another living with me, soon there will be words of praise or abuse directed at each other. Considering this troublesome possibility for the future, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Different kinds of sense pleasures, disguising themselves as sweet and delightful, only serve to agitate the heart. By exposing the dangers hiding in the 5 ropes of sense pleasures, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. It is a disaster, a catastrophe, a sore, a sickness, a trouble, a hook, and that is frightful to me. Clearly seeing this fearful reality hidden within sense pleasures, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Whether it is the hot or cold weather, hunger or thirst, the dry and scorching wind or the humidity, or being harassed by gadflies and crawly things, patiently enduring all these, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Like the mature elephant, having seen it all, turns his back to the fresh waters of lotus-filled ponds, leaving his herd behind as he roams free anywhere he chooses in the forest, you too just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. It is an impossibility for the one who enjoys and delights in having companions to gain even a temporary release. Now, having heard these words from the kinsman of the sun, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Reminding yourself by saying, I have left behind the net of wrong views, and now, having gained the certitude of the correct path, as true knowledge arises in me, no longer am I led by anyone else. Just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Without any greed or hypocrisy, with all impurities of the heart removed, and no desires left in it for the world. Just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Stay away from evil friends who possess wrong behavior, those who are blind to the goal of the holy life, and who choose to constantly engage in immoral actions. So, instead of hankering after those with wrong views, do not abandon working on yourself, and just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Keep company with the noble friend, who is quite learned, possessing a solid grasp of the Dhamma, a true friend who trains you with his uplifting and eloquent speech, pulling you out of ignorance. By removing your doubts thus, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. No longer finding any satisfaction in whatever the world considers fulfilling or delightful, experiencing them instead as insufficient and incomplete. Stand unadorned while speaking your truth, and just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Leaving behind children and spouse, father and mother, wealth, possessions, and relatives too, along with sensual pleasures as much as you are able to, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. It is a trap, an attachment from which there can be no protection or satisfaction, but only misery, so long as you are in it. Understanding this to be the truth, the wise should just continue on their path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Tear up those shackles and ropes that bind you, much like the fish bursts through the suffocating net and swims free, fighting for its life, or like the blazing fire, which, having burned through, does not return back to the ground it has scorched. So, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. With eyes lowered, with no desire left for exploring new places for travel, with sense faculties guarded and the mind protected, without any leakage of mental contaminants, nor burning with longing, just continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Having left behind a layman's attire, much like a coral tree that has shed all its leaves, now, while you wear the maroon-colored robes of a bhikkhu, continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. No longer lusting after the flavors of the senses, not contentious, and no longer responsible for another, going from one place to the next on your alms round for your sustenance, and no more bound to this or that family. Just continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. By giving up the 5 hindrances and kicking out all the deceptions from the heart, neither depending on others nor having any affection or hatred towards anyone, continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Having left both happiness and pain behind, along with the delights and miseries of the past, while attaining to equanimity that is the spotless serenity of the heart, just continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Resolutely putting the effort to reach the highest goal, neither drowsy nor half-hearted, but driven and with strong intent, powerfully and vigorously continue on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Not neglecting the importance of seclusion, while going through the jhanas, always living in accordance with the Dhamma, so to never go back to the wretched states of existence and rebirths. Just continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Through the destruction of craving, no longer being at the mercy of the king of death, staying vigilant and maintaining sati, and wisely seeing through the conditionality of all phenomena, thus set on your sure course to awakening. Continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Remain unshaken as a lion, untroubled by the sounds you hear, untouched by the passions, like the wind that is never caught in a fisherman's net, nor become defiled by the world, much like the lotus remains untouched by the water it rises through, and just continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Like the mighty king of the beasts, the lion moves about the jungle victoriously with his powerful teeth, so should you, while wandering or going to houses for alms, having absolute control over your behavior, as you continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. With time and consistency, gain your release through loving kindness, equanimity, and compassion, along with altruistic joy, as you stay undisturbed by anything in the world. So, continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Having left behind you a world of lust, hate, and delusion, tear through all the fetters that bind, never again afraid until the end of life, as you continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. People become friends or even serve you, but while following their own ulterior motives. In today's world, it is very difficult to find people who are genuine friends. Therefore, be careful and alert, as there are those who are impure, who work and scheme only to profit themselves. So, continue resolutely on your path, living alone like a solitary horned rhinoceros. Sutta Nipāta 1.4 Kasibhāradvāja Sutta. The farmer, Bhāradvāja. I have personally heard this. Once, the Blessed One was living among the southern hills in the Brahmin village Ekanala within the Magadhan kingdom. It was during that time that the Brahmin farmer Bhāradvāja had been plowing the fields with his 500 yoked oxen. Then, when it was morning, the Blessed One, after putting on his robes and taking his alms bowl and outer robe with him, went to the field where Bhāradvāja, the Brahmin farmer, was plowing the land. Now, when the Blessed One arrived, Bhāradvāja was seen distributing food to the needy. So the Blessed One went there and stood silently. On seeing the Blessed One stand there for alms, Bhāradvāja remarked in verse, "Recluse, I work by plowing and sowing. Only afterwards do I eat. So, if you also want to eat, then do as I do and first plow and sow, and only after you have plowed and sowed, you may eat." And the Blessed One responded by saying, "Brahmin, I too plow and sow, and it is only afterwards that I eat. But I do not see Master Gautama with a plow or a plowshare or even a driving stick, nor any oxen with him. Yet Master Gautama says, 'Brahmin, I too plow and sow, and it is only afterwards that I eat.'" Then the Brahmin farmer Bhāradvāja continued, addressing the Blessed One in verse, "You claim to be a farmer, but we do not see you plowing. Tell us, what is the kind of plowing that you do, so I may come to know of what it is that you farm and plow?" And the Blessed One replied, "Faith is the seed, while restraint is the rain, whereas wisdom is my yoke and plow. Wise moral shame is the pole, and the mind its reins, while mindfulness is my driving stick. Being guarded thus in body, guarded in speech, I eat only what the body needs, and no more. I use truth as my weeding hook, and soft forbearance is my release. Persevering effort is my yoked ox, which carries me all the way to my goal, non-stop, relentlessly, where having reached it, there is no more grieving. This is the way I do my plowing, where the deathless is the fruit of the harvest. And when you are finished doing this kind of farming, you are released fully from all suffering." In hearing these words, the Brahmin farmer Bhāradvāja reached for a bronze bowl, and by filling it up with deliciously rich milk rice, he presented it to the Blessed One by saying, "May Master Gautama eat this milk rice. It seems that you are indeed a farmer, for the plowing that you do results in one to straightway taste the deathless as its fruit." And the Blessed One continued, speaking, "It is not appropriate for me to eat food that has been offered by the chanting of verses. After all, this is not the way for those who have the ability to see correctly. The Buddhas reject the practice of incantations, and so long as the Dhamma exists, Brahmin, this position remains. Instead, just concern yourself with making the offering of food and drink to the great sage who has destroyed the heart's contaminants, the one who is completely calmed from all kinds of guilty remorse. Thus, such a one is the fertile field of merits for all those seeking their gain." "In that case, Master Gautama," replied Bhāradvāja, "to whom should I be making this offering of milk rice?" "Brahmin, among all the gods and humans, its Maras and Brahmas, this entire population of recluses and Brahmins, I do not see even a single being who, by taking this milk rice, would be able to consume and digest it, except for the Tathagata, or one of his true disciples. Therefore, Brahmin, throw away that milk rice where there is little or no life at all, or cast it into the water where there are no living beings that you could discern. And just as directed, the Brahmin farmer Bhāradvāja threw the milk rice into the water where there were no living beings that he could discern. But the moment he cast it in the water, suddenly it began making bubbles and hissing sounds, as the water began sizzling and sending out smoke. On witnessing this take place in front of his eyes, suddenly Bhāradvāja became terrified and awestruck, and he began trembling as his hair stood on end. Recovering from his shock, he returned back to the Blessed One, fell to his knees while placing his head at the feet of Lord Buddha, and uttered these words: "How wonderful! It is just amazingly wonderful! I feel as though Master Gautama has turned upright what was overturned, revealing what was hidden, showing the correct path to someone who was lost, as though one were to bring a lamp into the darkness for all those with eyesight to see. Master Gautama, you have made the Dhamma clear to me in many ways. Bhante, I go for refuge to Master Gautama, to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of Bhikkhus. May the Blessed One grant me the going forth by giving me the higher ordination in his dispensation." Thus, the Brahmin farmer Bhāradvāja received the going forth and the higher ordination in the Blessed One's dispensation. Soon after his higher ordination, the Venerable Bhāradvāja, while being alone and secluded from the crowd, living heedfully, with resolution, and practicing diligently, before long, he here and now was able to finally realize, by himself, the noble end of the holy life, experiencing for himself that unsurpassed knowledge for which sons of good families rightfully leave the household life by becoming homeless. And the Venerable Bhāradvāja knew for himself, with certainty unparalleled, now birth is finally destroyed. The holy life is fully lived. What should be done is now done, and there is no more coming to any state of becoming. And Venerable Bhāradvāja became one of the Arahants. Sutta Nipāta 1.5 Cunda Sutta to Cunda. Cunda, the goldsmith, asked the Blessed One, "May I ask the boundlessly wise king of the Dhamma, the Lord Buddha, the most excellent charioteer, who is firmly grounded with both feet, the one without any craving in his heart, the following question: How many types of recluses are to be found in the world?" And the Blessed One replied, "Cunda, there are to be found only these 4 types of recluses in the world, without there being a 5th. Now that you have asked me about them, I will go ahead and reveal them to you. These 4 are the winner of the path, the teacher who points out the path, the one who lives the path, and the one who defiles the path." And who is the one, Blessed Lord, whom the Buddha has described as the winner of the path? Asked Cunda, the goldsmith. And how does one become an unequaled teacher who points out the path, and the one who lives the path? Also, please explain to me the one who defiles the path. The one who has crossed the ocean of doubts, having pulled out the arrow of sorrow, rid himself of all kinds of wanting, who only lives for Nibbana. The winner who now serves as the guide for the world, along with its devas. It is such a person whom the Buddhas call winner of the path. The one who knows the highest as being the highest is the one who explains and elucidates the Dhamma. He, being the unshakable remover of doubts, is the second bhikkhu, the teacher, who points out the path. Living with restraint according to the well-taught Dhamma, going about life fully alert, and developing himself with blameless conduct, he is the third bhikkhu among the four, the one living the path. Disguising himself as being virtuous, the insolent and recklessly shameful corrupter of families, living with deceit like a highway robber, the hypocrite and the useless chaff, is himself the one who defiles the path. On hearing this explanation, a householder who is truly a noble disciple understands its meaning, and as a result sees recluses for who and what they truly are, without being fooled by appearances. In this manner, householders will not lose the faith in their hearts, knowing full well who to place their faith in. For how could the evil be equated with the ones who are uncorrupted, or the impure with the pure? Sutta Nipāta 1.6 Parābhava Sutta, the downfall. I have personally heard this. At one time, the Blessed One was living at the monastery donated by Anathapindika at Jeta's Park, in the city of Savatthi. Then, one night, in the early morning hours, right before dawn, a certain Deva, glorious in appearance, manifested and began approaching the Blessed One and paid homage by worshipping him. Standing there to one side, while illuminating the entire monastery, the Deva addressed the Blessed One in verse by saying, "We have come to ask the Lord Gautama about a human being's downfall. What is it, O Holy One, that leads the way to his ruin and downfall?" It is easy to comprehend growth and success, as it is easy to comprehend the state of ruin and downfall. For while the lover of the Dhamma grows with success, but the hater of the Dhamma is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the first cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its second reason, O Blessed Lord. It is when one admires evil men and their ways, while despising good men and their behavior. Therefore, when the person approvingly follows the lifestyle of those evil ones, as a result, he is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the second cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its third reason, O Blessed Lord. It is when one has no desire to excel or exert himself, and instead longs for sleep, while desiring companionship. Being thus lazy, angry, and resentful, he is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the third cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its fourth reason, O Blessed Lord. When one can support one's own mother and father, but chooses not to, despite his parents being old and having passed their prime, and now being in desperate need for his help. As a result, he is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the fourth cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its fifth reason, O Blessed Lord. It is by falsely speaking one deceives a holy man, a recluse, or any ascetic from other sects. As a result of his lying, he is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the fifth cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its sixth reason, O blessed Lord. It is when a person with abundant wealth, gold, and food enjoys it all by himself, eating the finest of delicacies alone, without sharing them with others. As a result, he is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the sixth cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its seventh reason, O blessed Lord. If anyone, considering oneself as noble because of one's birth or wealth or clan, as he looks down upon others and his fellow man, then, as a result, he is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the seventh cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its eighth reason, O blessed Lord. It is when the person indulges in sex, uses intoxicating substances and drinks, while enjoying gambling, thus wasting away all that he has. As a result, he is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the eighth cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its ninth reason, O blessed Lord. It is when the person, not being satisfied with their own mate, goes out and engages in sex with others and with other people's mates. As a result, they are met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the ninth cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its 10th reason, O blessed Lord. It is when a man, being old himself, gets married to a young woman with full breasts and in the prime of her life. Because of his jealousy of her, he loses sleep, and as a result is met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the 10th cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its 11th reason, O blessed Lord. It is when a person gives a leadership position to a man or a woman who engages in taking intoxicating and mind-altering substances, who indulges in sex, in overspending, and other addictions as well. As a result, they are met with unavoidable downfall. We now comprehend this as the 11th cause for one's downfall. Kindly speak to us of its 12th reason, O blessed Lord. It is when a person, although poor and of little means, possesses a strong craving to become part of the Kshatriya or warrior ruling classes, desiring kingship in this world. As a result, he is met with unavoidable downfall. By having seen and comprehended for themselves these various causes for downfall in the world, the wise, noble disciples, who are accomplished in their insight, remain aloof and successful, living in and enjoying the bliss of peace. Sutta Nipāta 1.7 Vasala Sutta, the Outcast. I have personally heard this. At one time, the Blessed One was living at the monastery donated by Anathapindika at Jeta's Park, in the city of Savatthi. Then, when it was already morning, having put on his robes and taking his outer robe and alms bowl, the Blessed One went on his alms round by walking through the streets of Savatthi. Meanwhile, the sacrificial fire kept burning at the house of Bhāradvāja, the fire-worshipping Brahmin, where offerings were being made as he performed the fire sacrifice. Then, on seeing the Blessed One approach from a distance, Bhāradvāja, the fire-worshipping Brahmin, began yelling, "You, stop there! You bald-headed recluse! You wretched outcast! Stop! Don't approach any further." When this was said, The Blessed One replied by asking Bhāradvāja, the fire-worshipping Brahmin, "O Brahmin, do you know an outcast when you see one, or the qualities that make one an outcast?" Then Bhāradvāja, the fire-worshipping Brahmin, pausing to consider the question, replied to the Blessed One by saying, "Master Gautama, I do not know an outcast, nor the qualities that make one an outcast. Perhaps it would be good if you could explain to us who an outcast is, and what the qualities that make one an outcast are." "Well then, Brahmin, now listen closely and pay attention, and I will explain." "Yes, sir," said Bhāradvāja, the fire-worshipping Brahmin, and the Blessed One continued, instructing him in verse. "If a man is angry, with hostility in his heart, full of evil intent, while being contentious, hypocritical and deceitful, lost in wrong views, such a person is known to be an outcast. Intending to harm living beings, whether those born through a womb or hatched from eggs, he who has no compassion for things that breathe, such a person is known to be an outcast. Killing and robbing, terrorizing people wherever he meets them, be it in towns or cities, known to all as a tormenting oppressor with no compassion, such a person is known to be an outcast. Whether in public or in private, while not being offered himself, the one who takes things cherished by others, taking what is not freely given to him, such a person is known to be an outcast. Having borrowed money from those who trusted him, when they come calling for him to repay his debt or offer them a helping hand, he runs away, or even worse, denies ever owing them anything. Such a person is known to be an outcast. Whether in plain sight or in the middle of the street, if he desires something of little material value even from a recluse gone into seclusion, he would strike him down and kills them to take it. Such a person is known to be an outcast. When asked to testify by bearing witness, instead of telling the truth, if he lies, whether for his own gain or for someone else's, for the sake of some advantage or for wealth, such a person is known to be an outcast. He who engages in sexual acts with others' wives, be they his relatives or his friends' mates, no matter if it is by their consent or through seducing them, such a person is known to be an outcast. Although having the means, he who does not support his mother and father, who need him, neglecting them, now that they're old and past their prime, such a person is known to be an outcast. He who strikes or verbally abuses his mother or father, his brother or sister, or even his mother-in-law, such a person is known to be an outcast. When asked for advice or to teach what is useful and essential, while trying to hide his ignorance, he answers by talking about what is useless and unessential, avoiding questions and using roundabout ways of deflecting, even attacking the questioner instead. Such a person is known to be an outcast. While behaving in unwholesome ways, he tries to hide and conceal his actions, engaging in secretive deeds. Such a person is known to be an outcast. While he enjoys going to others' homes and eating and having his fill of their delicious food, but when it is his turn to be hospitable and generous, becoming stingy, refusing to honor those who visit his home, such a person is known to be an outcast. If the person deceives a noble disciple, or a recluse, or even an ascetic from another sect, such a person is known to be an outcast. When, at the appropriate mealtime, recluses and ascetics come to receive their alms food, instead of offering them food, he scolds and abuses them. Such a person is known to be an outcast. Being ignorant and entirely shrouded in his delusion, the one who gets overexcited as he rambles on about things that have never happened, such a person is known to be an outcast. He who enjoys praising and talking about himself, but while putting down others and disparaging them, driven by nothing other than his own conceit, such a person is known to be an outcast. The one with contention in his heart, always angry and avaricious, desiring to do evil, deceitful, and with no remorse or shame for his actions, such a person is known to be an outcast. He who tries insulting and abusing the Buddha or any of his disciples, whether those who have gone forth or his lay followers, such a person is known to be an outcast. Although having no attainments at all, whoever pretends to be an arahant, whether by deceiving himself or others, thus remaining a thief and a lowlife, both in this and in the Brahma world, he indeed is the lowest of outcasts. Therefore, I declare all these to be outcasts. So you see, it's not through birth that one becomes an outcast, nor is it through birth whereby one becomes noble either. It's only one's own actions that make one an outcast. And it's through one's own intentional actions as well that one becomes noble indeed. Here, it would serve you well to know the example of Sopaka, the son of an outcast named Chandala, who came to be known as Matanga. In time, this Matanga became famous by achieving what was difficult to attain, obtaining a reputation that is hard to gain, where even many Khattiya warriors from royal families, as well as Brahmins, all come to honor, respect, and serve him. For he set out on the divine and stainless path, leading to heavenly rebirth, as he gave up sensual desire and reappeared in the realm of the Brahma gods. Thus, his low caste as a human being did not prevent him from attaining rebirth as a Brahma god. Although Brahmins born in families are seen as belonging to the highest class in society, known as the reciters of the Vedas and their incantations, yet they are discovered to be no more than mere outcasts, drowning in their evil, unwholesome actions and behavior. In this way, they remain blameworthy, both in this life and in the ones to follow, being reborn in one miserable realm after another. Thus, their high caste, while born as human beings, did not prevent them from blame, but especially from being reborn in the realms of misery, even in the hells. So you see again, it's not through birth that one becomes an outcast, nor is it through birth whereby one becomes noble either. It's only one's own actions that make one an outcast, and it's through one's own intentional actions as well that one becomes noble indeed. When this was said, Bhāradvāja, the fire-worshipping Brahmin, exclaimed to the Blessed One, "It is magnificent, Master Gotama. This is excellent, Bhante. The Blessed One has made the Dhamma clear for me in many ways, as though he were to turn upright what was turned upside down, revealing to me what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, holding up a lamp in the dark for all those with eyesight to see. I go to the Blessed One as my refuge, and to the Dhamma and to the Sangha of bhikkhus. From this day forward, may the Blessed One remember me as one of his lay disciples who has taken refuge in him until the end of life. Sutta Nipāta 1.8 Mettā Sutta, Discourse on Benevolent Universal Loving Kindness. The wholesome one, seeking the deeper meaning of the teachings, eager to experience true peace, must practice the following. He should be capable, honest, living with virtue, considerate and kind, while remaining humble and honest, neither conceited nor proud. Being contented and easy to support, unburdened by responsibilities, staying frugal in living one's life, and with his mental faculties restrained and cooled. He is neither brazen nor impolite, always courteous and not attached to, nor overbearing with those families that support him. No matter how small, if there is anything that may be looked down upon or criticized by the wise, one must abstain from it. In this way, all beings around oneself will feel safe and secure. May all beings thus enjoy happiness and contentment. Whatever types of beings there may be, excluding none, whether those moving or frozen, long or short, large or small, or anyone in between. Whether these beings are seen or unseen, living far or near, born or those that are about to be born, may all beings enjoy happiness and contentment. Let no one talk badly about another, nor for any reason wish for bad things to happen to another, never despising another out of disgust or spite. Much like a loving mother would protect her only son, always attentive and caring for him, so he must develop his mind to encompass that same level of boundless kindness. Along with universal love for all beings in the world, pouring from a heart that is boundless and measureless, spreading far and wide, moving upward, downward, all around, expanding in all directions and without any obstructions, without any sense of animosity or contention. Whether standing or sitting down, or walking, or even while lying down, so long as I am awake, I shall intend on having this mental attitude. After all, this is the divine practice of the Brahmas. By not loitering around nor living with wrong views, remaining virtuous in behavior, with clear understanding and insight functioning in his heart, having crushed sensual desire through the discipline of the Vinaya, he will certainly no longer come back to any womb ever again. Sutta Nipāta 1.9 Hemavata Sutta Hemavata. Today is the 15th day of the Uposatha, called out the Yakkha, Satagiri of Mount Sata, to his friend Hemavata. A holy night indeed is at hand, my dear friend. Come, let us both go now and see our peerless teacher Gautama. Friend Satagiri, can your teacher keep his mind well disposed towards all beings equally? Is your teacher well disposed towards all beings without any discrimination? Responded the Yakkha Hemavata to his friend Satagiri while asking further. Does your teacher exercise his power and control over his thoughts, restraining them to only what is desirable, while refraining from all that is undesirable? Friend Hemavata, our teacher, the Buddha, looks upon all beings with equanimity, and he exercises his power and control over his thoughts, restraining them to only what is desirable, while refraining from all that is undesirable. Friend Satagiri, does your teacher take what is not freely given? Hemavata continues, inquiring from his friend. How is his self-control? How does he behave towards other beings? Does he live carelessly? Is he negligent and heedless when it comes to practicing the jhanas? Friend Hemavata, responded Satagiri, our teacher does not take what is not given, for he is fully restrained with self-control, behaving with loving kindness towards all beings. The Buddha is far from being careless, and he is neither negligent nor heedless in his practice of the jhanas. Friend Satagiri, is he the kind of teacher who speaks falsely? Asked Hemavata further from his friend. Does he use harsh or violent words? Does he slander against anyone? Does he spend his time engaging in idle or useless chatter? Friend Hemavata, he is the kind of teacher who never speaks falsely, replied Satagiri. He does not use any harsh or violent words. He neither slanders against anyone, nor spends his time engaging in idle or useless chatter, for he always speaks with discernment, saying only what is necessary and wise. Friend Satagiri, is he not given to any sensual desires? Is his mind unperturbed, no longer chasing after or indulging in sense pleasures? Further asked the Yakkha Hemavata. Has he overcome delusion? Does he possess the eye to see through all phenomena? Friend Hemavata, the teacher is not given to any sensual desires, replied Satagiri. His mind is unperturbed, no longer indulging in nor chasing after sense pleasures. He has overcome all delusion, and with the eye of a Buddha he sees the true nature of all phenomena. Friend Satagiri, is he a master of knowledge? Asked Hemavata. Does he possess perfect purity of conduct? Are his mental contaminants all destroyed? And is he bound to any more renewed existence? Indeed, friend Hemavata, he is the great master of knowledge, replied Satagiri, while adding, he is the one possessing perfect purity of conduct. Having destroyed all his heart's contaminants, he now lives finally freed, no longer bound to any more renewed existence. The great sage's heart is flawlessly exquisite, whether one witnesses his speech or deed. My dear friend, being fully accomplished in both knowledge and behavior, Gautama is the very teacher possessing the qualities you hold so dear and praise. My dear friend, being fully accomplished in both knowledge and behavior, Gautama is the very teacher possessing the qualities you wholeheartedly rejoice in and celebrate. My dear friend, being fully accomplished in both knowledge and behavior, let us now go and see Gautama, the only one who possesses the purest knowledge and behavior. The silent warrior, whose slender limbs are like those of an antelope, eating only a little, with a heart that knows no lust for food. He now sits meditating in the great forest all alone. Let us now go, my dear friend, and see Gautama. And by approaching him, the one who is the lion among men, the bull elephant roaming and living alone, beyond the trappings of sense pleasures, let us ask him on how to liberate ourselves from the tangle of death. Let us go and ask Gautama, the teacher, the guide, the expounder of meanings, who has overcome and gone beyond all things, for he is the Buddha, having overcome all hatred and fear. Then the two Yakkha generals approached the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, stood at a respectful distance, and Hemavata eagerly addressed the Blessed One with a question. How does the world arise? As he continued, by means of what association is the world maintained? By grasping onto what does the world become afflicted, and with what? The world arises in six, answered the Blessed One to Hemavata. It is maintained through association with the six. By grasping on to the six, the world becomes afflicted with the six. What is that grasping by which the world becomes afflicted? Hemavata asked further. Do tell us about this release. When asked the question, how is one freed from all suffering? And the Blessed One replied, 5 are the kinds of sensual pleasures in the world, to which the mind is added as the sixth. When there is no more longing in the heart for any of these, then one is completely freed from all suffering. This is the way to be released from the world. This truth that I declare to you. This in itself is the way you seek to be freed from all suffering. Who in the world can cross the great flood? Asked Hemavata. Who in the world can cross the bottomless ocean? Who with no support or any footing ferries on undisturbed, never sinking into the deep? And the Blessed One said, He who always lives with virtuous behavior and understanding, the wise one who is contented and ever mindful, constantly reflecting on the level of the mind's release, is the one who goes beyond the flood that is so hard to cross. He who is disgusted by perceptions of sense pleasures, who has broken all the fetters and is completely done with seeking any kind of rebirth, it is he who does not sink into the deep. Then Hemavata the Yakkha exclaimed, Behold, the one with deepest wisdom, the one who penetrates by seeing the subtlest of meanings, he who possesses nothing, nor clings to anything belonging to the senses. It is he who is free in every respect, wherever he goes, the great recluse walking the path of the noble ones. Behold, the one with the unparalleled name, he who sees the subtlest of meanings, the giver of wisdom, unfettered to the realm of the senses. Gaze upon him, the all-knower, the wisest of beings, the great recluse, walking the path of the noble ones. It was indeed a fine sight for us to behold this day, a lovely dawn, beautifully arisen, for we have now seen the perfectly awakened one, who has crossed the flood, having liberated himself from the mental contaminants. O Blessed One, now these powerful and mighty Yakkhas, 1,000 in number, all go to you for refuge. And from today forth, Lord, you are our peerless teacher. From village to village we will now roam, and from peak to peak, while paying homage to the perfectly awakened one, and to the sublime truth of the Dhamma you teach. Sutta Nipāta 1.10 Āḷavaka Sutta. Discourse to Āḷavaka the Yakkha. This is what I personally heard. Once, the Blessed One was staying in Āḷavaka, the region dominated by the Yakkha Āḻavaka. Then the Yakkha Āḻavaka approached the Blessed One and said, "Leave this place, recluse." "All right, friend," replied the Blessed One as he began to leave. "Come back and stay, recluse," exclaimed the Yakkha Āḻavaka again. "All right, friend," replied the Blessed One yet again as he returned back. But the Yakkha Āḻavaka shouted for a second time, "Leave this place, recluse." "All right, friend," replied the Blessed One for a second time as he began to leave. "Come back and stay, recluse," exclaimed the Yakkha Āḻavaka once again. "All right, friend," replied the Blessed One again as he returned back. But the Yakkha Āḻavaka for a third time exclaimed, "Leave this place, recluse." "All right, friend," said the Blessed One, and he began to leave for a third time yet again. "Come back and stay, recluse," exclaimed the Yakkha Āḻavaka once again. "All right, friend," replied the Blessed One yet again as he came back. And for a fourth time the Yakkha Āḻavaka shouted, "Leave this place, recluse." But this time the Blessed One said, "No, friend, I shall not leave. You may go ahead and do whatever you like. In that case, I will ask you a question, recluse, and if you do not provide me with the correct answer, then I will agitate your mind enough to drive you insane. Or I will split your heart open, grab hold of your feet, and fling you across to the other side of the river Ganges." "That won't be possible, friend, for I do not see in this world, with its gods and humans, its Maras and Brahmas, along with its entire population of recluses and Brahmins, anyone capable of agitating my mind, or driving me insane, or able to split my heart open, or grab hold of my feet to fling me across to the other side of the river Ganges. However, you may go ahead, friend, and ask your question as you wish." Then the Yakkha Āḻavaka addressed the Blessed One by asking in verse, "What is the greatest possession one could have? What is it that, when put into practice, brings one the highest joy and happiness? What is the sweetest of all flavors? And what is the best form of living with which one may experience life at its very best?" Having faith in one's heart is the greatest possession one could have. The Dhamma that is taught, when put into practice, brings one the highest joy and happiness. Truth is the sweetest of all flavors. Living with wisdom is the best form of living, allowing one to experience life at its very best. By what means can one cross over the flood? How can you traverse over the vast ocean? How can one exhaust suffering that is so hard to overcome? And how can one attain to the state of purity? It is with faith that the flood is crossed. Through diligent heedfulness, one can traverse over the vast ocean. With persistent effort, one can exhaust suffering that is so hard to overcome. And it is through wisdom that one attains to the state of purity. And how does one gain wisdom? How can one come to great riches? How can one attain to a good reputation? What is the best way whereby one can attract to himself and keep great friends? And at death, when the time comes to leave this world and pass away to another realm, how can there be no mourning or grief? Being grounded in one's faith in the Dhamma taught by the Arahants, fighting against the tendency for negligence, while listening to their advice, thus one gains wisdom through practice in order to experience for oneself that rare state of Nibbana. Responsibly engaging in actions that are harmonious and appropriate, while working with intelligent determination, brings you great riches. Meanwhile, standing with what is true and just, you attain good reputation. And by having these, along with being generous and giving, you attract to yourself and keep great friends. For any householder who has the four qualities of faith, truth, intelligent persistence, and generosity, at the time of death, there cannot remain in his heart any grief or mourning as he leaves this world to pass away into another realm. You may now go and inquire others also on this, for many are the recluses and Brahmins out there, whom you could ask if there could possibly be anything better than truth, self-restraint, generosity, and patience. Now, why would I go and question other recluses and Brahmins any further on this? Replied the Yakkha Āḷavaka. For today, I finally understand what is essential for me to do and what my future goal must be. Truly, indeed, it was for my own sake that the Lord Buddha himself came to stay in Āḷavaka. Today, I understand that such a great gift will only bear abundant fruits. From now on, I will go from village to village, from town to town, paying homage to the fully awakened Buddha and the incomparably natural excellence of the Dhamma that he teaches. Sutta Nipāta 1.11 Vijaya Sutta Victory. Whether walking or standing still, while sitting or lying down, there is stretching of limbs and flexing taking place within the body. This is how the body moves through its postures and junction points. Connected with bones and ligaments, and covered up with muscles and flesh, while being shielded throughout with the skin, covering all that truly lies beneath it, hidden. There it is fully packed inside, with the liver, intestines, gut, and bladder, as well as the heart, lungs, kidneys, and the spleen. There is mucus, saliva, sweat, and lymph, blood and synovial fluid between the joints, along with bile and the fat throughout. Meanwhile, from the 9 gates, filth continues to flow endlessly, whether secretions from the eyes or wax from the ears. With snot oozing from the nose, phlegm and vomit from the mouth, as well as sweat trickling from the body, and of course excrement and waste coming out from its bowels. Then the bony skull is filled up by the brain mass, which the fool in his delusion believes to be highly respected and honored. But when the time comes and the body is dead, lying on its back, bloated and turning blue, this body, once cherished by many, is now discarded and forgotten by all loved ones. Thus, it is then eaten and devoured by wild dogs, jackals, wolves, and worms, with all its contents pulled out and gobbled up by crows and vultures, along with any other creatures attracted to it for their sustenance. But, on hearing the words of the Buddha, the alert bhikkhu understands their meaning, for he sees the body for what it truly is, fully comprehending it. While he carefully discerns, as this body is now alive, so will it be in the future dead. By understanding the significance of this fact, one should reject any and all desires pertaining to this body, whether internally or externally. and by ridding himself from both desire and lust, the bhikkhu arrives at the peaceful state of the deathless, experiencing the unshakability of Nibbana. This stinking, two-footed bag of filth called a body continues to be cherished, even though every day it gets filled up with countless carcasses, along with more excrement that keeps oozing out from it while being spread here and there. Therefore, living in such filth, if one reveres oneself for having a certain type of body while looking down at the bodies of others as he speaks ill of them, well then, what is the cause of that conceit, if not the inability to see with wisdom? Sutta Nipāta 1.12 Muni Sutta, the Sage. Fear arises when you get intimately close with others, because by living together, what arises is dust and pollution. Because of this, the sage chooses to live the homeless life, free from all the entanglements that companionship brings. By uprooting whatever used to grow, the wandering sage, living alone, is not one who would go back to replanting its seeds for it to grow back again, nor to foster it by giving it a new birth. That is how the great sage experiences peace. Having properly assessed his past actions and considered their very causes, such a sage would no longer perpetuate those by giving them any further attention, for he, with confidence supreme, is the one who has gone beyond the confines of logic and its endless labyrinths, and thus has seen the destruction of rebirth itself. Having considered and seen all the realms of rebirth, but not wanting to have anything to do with any of them, desiring none, the sage remains without greed, free from longing, and as a result, struggling no further, either this way or that, for he has crossed over to the farther shore. The sage, seeing all things, overcomes them all by remaining aloof, standing amidst the world, yet unstained by it, for he has left it all behind and is now liberated, having destroyed craving and its suffocating hold on the heart. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. Strengthened by wisdom, living with virtue, and composed with a collected mind, he appreciates the value of the jhanas, dwelling with mindfulness throughout. With the poisoned arrow pulled out, he remains desireless, with the contaminants all wiped out from his heart. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. The wandering sage, diligently working on improving himself, is unmoved nor affected, whether exposed to praise or blame. He is like the lion that remains unstartled by various cries, or like the wind that cannot be captured in a net, or like the lotus which remains untouched by the water drops. While he himself is not led by others, he is the one who leads others to the highest. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. He is firmly grounded, no matter how many bitter words are thrown at him, while standing tall and unmoved, much like a pillar placed deep into the ground. Being thus, without any lust remaining in his heart, he lives with all his faculties settled and attentive. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. steadfast and determined on his single course and trajectory, just like a sharply moving arrow. He is disgusted by unwholesome actions, and because of this, he is always watchful and alert, examining the nature of his deeds, discerning between what is harmonious and non-harmonious with the Dhamma. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. Whoever lives thus, with his senses restrained, cannot allow himself to do any evil intentionally. Whether surrounded by children or old people, he remains a sage, undeterred, no longer susceptible to irritability. He does not fuel more anger to arise in others, as he abstains from insulting or retaliating for what was done to him. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. And when he who lives by the charity of others receives choice offerings of meals that are delicious and exquisite, or whether those that are considered medium in quality or mere leftovers, the sage remains unfazed, for he neither thinks highly of nor belittles the food he gets, due to their quality. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. The sage lives while completely refraining from sex, even from a young age. He is not tied down by anything, being completely uninterested in taking any kinds of intoxicants or substances that delude the mind. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. Understanding the world, seeing the highest goal in life, he has crossed over the flood, traversing over the ocean vast. He is the one who has broken himself free of the shackles that bind. Unfettered he lives, having cleanly pulled out the contaminants from his heart. It is for this reason that the wise recognize him as a sage. These two could never be equal nor the same. The householder who maintains a wife, and the one yoked to the Dhamma who lives by virtue. That householder lives while being unrestrained when it comes to harming others, whereas the sage behaves with restraint as he protects all beings always. The crested, blue-necked peacock, dragging its long tail behind it, will never be equal in speed to that of the goose that flies free through the wide open sky. Likewise, the householder cannot be equal to the bhikkhu who lives unattached, meditating in the seclusion of the forest.